Joining us now, staff writer for The Atlantic covering national security and intelligence, Shane Harris. He is on today's Byline with Jeffrey Goldberg. Shane, it's good to have you back. Yesterday, we were talking about the content of the text messages and how you, in your time as a national security reporter covering these sorts of things, have never seen anything like it. Today, the administration is trying to diminish it, saying that even you guys had to change the headline of the piece from war plans to attack plans.
Well, I promise you we didn't do that because we thought the information was banal. And I see that Caroline Levitt made a bit of a tweet. Look, the American people, people around the world can now see for themselves what we were describing in these text messages, particularly what was sent by Secretary Hegseth. It was notable what Congressman Crow said, that by the DNI's own standards of what information would be classified, this would be classified. And look, there's just an element of common sense here. I mean, does anybody really think that this kind of information is not sensitive? I mean, this was being sent on an unsecured channel. It landed in the hands of a reporter hours before these planes were actually flying to their targets. I mean, this is absolutely the kind of information that the military goes to extraordinary lengths to protect for obvious reasons. If your adversary knows that you are approaching them, they're going to take steps to defend themselves. So I understand, there are a lot of arguments today about, is it classified? Is it not classified? Secretary Hegseth is yet to say whether he declassified this information before he put it in the chain. But I think that people can just read this for themselves, and even using common sense, you don't have to be an expert in government classification, I think, to see why this is such a sensitive issue.
Well, let's dive into it a little bit more. But first, let me play Pete Hegseth today in Hawaii on his way to Guam.
I noticed this morning out came something that doesn't look like war plans. And as a matter of fact, they even changed the title to attack plans because they know it's not war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information. My job, as it said atop of that, everybody's seen it now, team update, is to provide updates in real time. General updates in real time, keep everybody informed. That's what I did. That's my job.
Okay, no war plans, no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information. The updates that we've seen are not giving specific locations in terms of we're going to take off from this base and we're going to attack this target here, the coordinates. So explain to me why even just this general information would still fall into the category of you don't want anyone to know this.
Number one, time. It says what time they're going to be over the targets. I think the Houthis pretty much know well what the targets might be that U.S. warplanes would want to attack. I think you can infer some location or route data, I should say, from this. As for location, it does in fact talk about tracking an individual terrorist as he is going into the home of his girlfriend. There's a report about the house being destroyed. I think this is the roof has collapsed. So there's a clear indication that they're tracking individuals on the ground to precise locations. I mean, I understand what the secretary is saying and sort of, picking through this, but he is downplaying this as significant. He's making this almost sound like, I don't know what, something the DOD would post on their website. I mean, this is incredibly sensitive information. There is no circumstance in which the DOD would want somebody who is not cleared to have this information to have it in advance. So, I mean, I think that I understand why the administration is trying to deflect upon this, but it does not change the fact that this is sensitive information. And you heard from Senator Wicker, who has oversight of Secretary Hegseth's department, saying he would believe that this is classified and he wants it investigated. That's a Republican speaking.
We saw a moment ago Marco Rubio address this, and he was distant from it. He is not taking the same aggressive tone as the others, but he's also doing something that I saw from the CIA director and from the DNI during those hearings, which is to say that I didn't do anything in this text chain. I didn't reveal classified information. I didn't reveal intelligence that shouldn't be released out there. You got to ask the Defense Department. Does it read to you like they are trying to redirect blame here directly onto Pete Hegseth?
I mean, you've seen that really in their comments of like, I don't know if I want to characterize them trying to blame him, but they're sort of saying, not it. Go talk to Pete Hegseth because Pete Hegseth put this information in the chain. And it's important to note that as the Secretary of Defense, he would have the authority to classify and declassify certain information. Now, there is a process to doing that. So if officials are going to say this is unclassified, I think there's objective indicators that it is per se not unclassified. In the format that we're seeing, we've gone through that already. So if it was declassified or Secretary Hegseth thought it was appropriate to share, what was that process? Because they're now saying it was unclassified. And remember, when he's sharing this in the room, they don't know Jeffrey Goldberg is there. They're sharing it amongst themselves. It's perfectly appropriate for them to do that. In a meeting of these people, this principals committee group to discuss this, I think they would presume that they were sharing classified information. So why they're now saying it was unclassified, that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Tulsi Gabbard said today at the hearing that Signal is preloaded on their government phones. She also was not clear about whether she was using her own personal phone or a government phone. That was surprising to me, and I checked with some of my sources in security positions within the administration, and I haven't gotten a confirmation from anybody, not this administration, past administrations, that they've had it preloaded onto their phones. Have you?
I have not, Katie, and that was surprising to me, too. That may be the case. It may be that there's been some change in this administration. CIA Director Ratcliffe testified yesterday. I think the words he used were after he became director, Signal was loaded onto his computer. Now, I don't know if he means like a desktop computer in the director's office. You can't take cell phones inside the CIA building. We should note that. So I don't know what they're getting at there, because like you, in my conversations with people who've worked in security positions, including people in the government now who are not political officials, their understanding is all that no, you can't put Signal on a government issued device. Your personal device, yes, and officials in this administration and past ones have used it for unclassified communications. But I have never heard of Signal coming sort of like standard issue on your government secured mobile phone or your computer.